Somewhere in a marina near you, right now, there is a boat that nobody wants. It sits in the cheapest slip at the end of the dock, with faded fiberglass and a layer of green algae creeping up the waterline. Tourists walk past it on their way to photograph the shiny yachts. Boat brokers don't even bother listing it. And yet that boat, the one everyone ignores, might be the single cheapest legal way left in this country to live on the water. I'm talking about waking up to waterfront views that would cost a millionaire $2 million in real estate for less than the price of a used pickup truck. Stay with me for the next few minutes because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how this works, what it really costs, where the traps are hiding, and why almost nobody talks about it. And I promise you, the numbers are going to surprise you. Let's start with the problem everyone already knows. Waterfront property is the most expensive real estate category on earth. A modest house on a lake, on a river, on a coastline routinely costs 3 to 10 times more than the same house 2 miles inland. In Seattle, a small floating home on Lake Union can sell for over $1 million. In Sausalito, the famous floating home community north of San Francisco, prices regularly cross $2 million. Even renting near the water has become a luxury. So the dream of living on the water has quietly become something most people assume is locked away forever, reserved for the wealthy. But here's the thing. While everyone was busy pricing each other out of waterfront houses, an entire category of floating homes was being forgotten, neglected, and in many cases practically given away. And that category is the old, unloved, unfashionable houseboat. Now, before we go any further, we need to clear up some vocabulary, because this is where most people get confused, and it's also where the money hides. There are actually 3 different things people lump together when they say houseboat. First, there are floating homes. These are real houses built on floats. They don't have engines. They're permanently connected to sewer, water, and power. They're taxed like real estate, financed like real estate, and priced like real estate. Those are the $1 million ones. Forget those for now. Second, there are purpose-built houseboats, which are boats shaped like small homes, usually with flat bottoms, big square cabins, and modest engines. Think of the classic aluminum or fiberglass houseboats from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Brands like Gibson, Nautiline, Kingscraft, River Queen, and Burnscraft. And third, there are converted cruisers, ordinary motor yachts and trawlers from past decades that someone lives on. The second and third categories are where the bargains live. And the deeper you go into the unfashionable end of those categories, the cheaper it gets. So how cheap is cheap? Let's put real numbers on the table because this is the part that makes people's jaws drop. A 1970s Gibson houseboat, 36 to 42 feet long, with a full kitchen, a bathroom with a shower, a bedroom, and a living room, regularly sells in the United States for between $5,000 and $25,000. Not per year, total. That's the entire purchase price of your home. Older Nautilines and River Queens in rough but livable condition show up for $3,000 to $8,000. And at the very bottom of the market, there's a whole shadow world of boats that are essentially free. Marina lien sales, where a marina auctions off boats whose owners stop paying slip fees. Estate situations, where a family inherits grandpa's old houseboat and just wants it gone. Craigslist and Facebook marketplace listings that literally say, free to good home, must move by end of month. These boats exist in almost every boating region in the country. And the reason they're so cheap has almost nothing to do with whether you can live on them. Here's why nobody wants them and why that's your opportunity. The recreational boat market values speed, status, and newness. An old houseboat has none of those things. It's slow, it's boxy, and it looks like a floating mobile home, because honestly, that's kind of what it is. Boat buyers, the people with money, want sleek cruisers and fishing machines. So when an old houseboat hits the market, there's almost no buyer pool. The seller isn't competing with you against other buyers. The seller is competing against the monthly slip fee they're bleeding, which might be $400 to $800 a month for a boat they never use. Every month it doesn't sell costs them real money. That's why prices collapse. And that's why a motivated seller will sometimes hand you the keys for $1,000 or nothing at all. You are not buying a boat. You are relieving someone of a monthly bill. Understand that dynamic and you understand the entire bottom of this market. Now let's talk about what living aboard actually costs month to month, because the purchase price is only half the story, and anyone who tells you houseboat living is free is lying to you. The biggest recurring cost is moorage. the slip fee you pay the marina. This varies enormously by location, and I mean enormously. In a small inland marina on a lake or river in the Midwest or the South, a slip for a 40-foot boat might run $250 to $500 a month. In a mid-sized coastal city, expect $500 to $900. In premium markets like Seattle, San Francisco, or San Diego, liveaboard slips can run $1,000 to $1,500 or more when you can even find one. On top of the base slip fee, most marinas charge a liveaboard fee, usually an extra $100 to $300 a month, which covers the additional wear on facilities and, frankly, the marina's tolerance for you being there full time. Add metered electricity, which for most liveaboards runs $50 to $150 a month, depending on climate and how you heat, and you have your housing cost. So, in a realistic, middle-of-the-road scenario, you're looking at somewhere between $400 and $800 a month, all in, to live on the water. Compare that to the national median rent for a one-bedroom apartment, which has been hovering around $1,500, often nowhere near any water at all, and you start to see why people do this. But here's where I have to put on my expert hat and slow you down, because the internet is full of videos selling you the dream and skipping the fine print, and I refuse to do that. There are 3 traps in this lifestyle, and if you don't see them coming, they will eat you alive. Trap number 1 is the liveaboard slip itself. Owning a cheap boat is easy. Finding a marina that legally allows you to live on it is the actual hard part, and it's getting harder. Many marinas cap liveaboards at 10% of their slips, some ban it outright, and waiting lists in popular areas can run months or even years. So the golden rule of this entire lifestyle is this: secure the slip before you buy the boat. Call marinas first. Ask directly, do you allow liveaboards? What's the fee? Is there a wait list? Some marinas will also refuse boats over a certain age, or require a survey and proof of insurance before letting you in. A $5,000 houseboat with nowhere legal to park it isn't a home. It's a very large, very damp problem. Trap number 2 is the condition of the boat itself. And this is where cheap can turn expensive overnight. Old houseboats have predictable failure points, and you need to know them like a doctor knows symptoms. On fiberglass houseboats, the killer is the deck and the transom, the flat surfaces where water sat for decades and slowly soaked into the plywood core underneath. If the deck feels spongy when you walk on it, that's rot, and repairing a rotted core properly is a massive job. On steel-hulled boats and pontoons, the killer is corrosion at the waterline and around any fitting that penetrates the hull. On all old boats, the wiring is suspect, the fuel tanks may be original and corroded, and the engines, if they even run, are often 40-year-old gas inboards that may or may not be worth saving. Here's the good news, and it changes the whole math. If you're buying this boat to live at a dock, the engine barely matters. Plenty of liveaboards run their houseboats as floating apartments that move once a year or never. A dead engine, which terrifies recreational buyers and crushes the price, can be almost irrelevant to you. What you actually care about in order is this: does the hull keep water out? Is the deck and cabin structure solid? Does the roof leak? And are the systems, meaning electrical, plumbing, and heat, safe and functional? A boat that floats, doesn't leak from above, and has bad engines is a bargain. A boat with a beautiful running engine and a rotten deck is a trap. Which brings us to trap number 3, the ongoing maintenance reality. There's an old saying in the boating world that a boat is a hole in the water you throw money into, and there's truth in it, but it applies far less to dock-bound houseboats than to cruising yachts. Still, budget honestly. Every 2 to 4 years, the boat should be hauled out of the water so the bottom can be inspected, cleaned, and repainted with anti-fouling paint. A haul-out and bottom job on a 40-foot houseboat typically runs $1,000 to $3,000, depending on region and how much work is needed. Insurance for an old liveaboard is its own adventure. Many big insurers won't touch boats over 30 years old, but specialty marine insurers will, often after a survey, and liability-only policies, which many marinas accept, can run as little as $300 to $600 a year. Then there's the unglamorous stuff. Your toilet flushes into a holding tank, and that tank needs pumping out, either at a pump-out dock or by a mobile service, typically $10 to $30 a pop, or sometimes free at public facilities. In cold climates, you'll winterize water lines and Maybe install bubblers to keep ice from crushing the hull. A sane maintenance budget for a modest liveaboard houseboat is $150 to $300 a month. Set aside whether you spend it or not. Add that to your slip fee and you still come out far, far ahead of rent in most of the country. But go in with your eyes open. Now let's talk about where to actually find these boats, because this is a market that doesn't behave like any other. The cheapest boats almost never appear on the polished brokerage sites. They live on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, marina bulletin boards, and word of mouth. Here's a tactic that veterans of this world swear by: walk the docks. Go to older, slightly tired marinas, the working class ones, not the yacht clubs, and look for houseboats with sun-bleached covers, empty flower pots, and cobwebs on the lines. Then ask the marina office, "Hey, do you know if the owner of that Gibson on C dock would ever sell?" Marina staff know exactly which owners are behind on fees and desperate to get out. You will hear about boats that have never been listed anywhere. Also ask about lien auctions. When owners abandon boats, marinas eventually gain the legal right to sell them. And these auctions are where livable boats sometimes go for hundreds of dollars, because the marina just wants the slip back. One more channel: end of season in northern climates. Every October, owners face a winter storage bill of $1,000 to $3,000 for a boat they're tired of. The week that bill comes due is the single best week of the year to buy. Let me paint you a realistic picture of what this life actually looks like, because the fantasy and the reality are different, and you deserve the reality. You wake up and the light on the ceiling is moving, because it's reflecting off the water. That part of the fantasy is completely real, and people who live aboard will tell you it never gets old. Ducks tap on your hull. Herons stand on your neighbor's swim platform like ornaments. In summer, your back porch is the water itself, and your evening commute is stepping outside with a coffee. The liveaboard community is famously tight. Marinas full of liveaboards function like small villages, where people watch each other's boats, share tools, and gather on the dock on Friday nights. For a lot of people, especially those priced out of home ownership, it's not just cheap housing, it's the best community they've ever had. Now the other side. Space is small. A 40-foot houseboat gives you maybe 300 to 400 square feet, which is studio apartment territory. Everything you own needs a place, and most of what you own won't fit. So this life forces minimalism, whether you like it or not. Condensation is a real daily enemy. Warm, humid air inside, cold water outside, and moisture forms on windows and walls. So you'll run a dehumidifier, and you'll learn about ventilation fast, or you'll grow mold. Laundry usually means the marina laundromat. Storms mean checking your lines at 2 in the morning. Winter aboard in a cold climate is absolutely doable. Thousands of people do it. But it requires good heat, good insulation habits, and a tolerance for hauling things down an icy dock. Let's also be honest about who this lifestyle fits and who it doesn't, because I'd rather lose some of you here than have you make a $15,000 mistake. It fits people who are handy or at least willing to learn. On a boat, you are the maintenance department. Every liveaboard becomes a part-time plumber, electrician, and carpenter, and the ones who thrive actually enjoy that. It fits singles, couples, and remote workers beautifully. Marina Wi-Fi plus a hotspot makes working from a houseboat completely normal now, and there are thousands of people doing exactly that. It's harder, though not impossible, with kids, and it's genuinely difficult with mobility issues because docks, steps, and boat entries are unforgiving. And it does not fit people who need their housing to also be an investment. Hear this clearly. An old houseboat is a depreciating asset like a car. You're not building equity. What you're doing instead is converting a $1,500 rent payment into a $500 cost of living and banking the difference. Over 5 years, that difference can exceed $50,000. The boat itself might only be worth what you paid or less. The savings are the return. Now, for those of you watching from outside the United States or anyone curious about the global picture, this phenomenon isn't only American, and in some places it's even more developed. In the United Kingdom, tens of thousands of people live aboard narrowboats on the canal network, and a livable older narrowboat can be bought for £20,000 to £40,000, a fraction of any flat in London, with continuous cruising licenses that let you move along the canals instead of paying for a fixed mooring. In the Netherlands, Houseboat living is so established that Amsterdam's canals have legally registered houseboat berths, though those, fair warning, have become expensive precisely because the Dutch figured out the value decades ago. The pattern repeats everywhere. Wherever water meets a housing crisis, the boats nobody wants become the homes somebody needs. The United States is simply the place where the gap between waterfront property prices and forgotten boat prices is the widest, which makes it, right now, the biggest arbitrage in housing that almost no one is talking about. So let's get practical. If this video has lit a fire in you, here is exactly how I would proceed, step by step, as if I were starting from zero today. Step 1. Pick your water before you pick your boat. Decide on the region. Then call every marina within your radius and ask 3 questions. Do you allow liveaboards? What is total monthly cost, including liveaboard fee and electric? And what are your requirements for insurance and boat condition? Build a spreadsheet. This one step puts you ahead of 90% of dreamers. Step 2. Set your real budget. Whatever you plan to spend on the boat, hold back an equal amount for immediate repairs and the first 3 months of slip fees. If you have $10,000 total, you're shopping for boats under 5. Step 3. Shop the unloved brands. Search for Gibson, Nautiline, Harbor Master, Harbor Mansion, Kingscraft, River Queen, and the magic phrase, Liveaboard Project. Watch lean auctions and end-of-season listings. Step 4. Inspect ruthlessly. Walk every inch of the deck feeling for soft spots, open every hatch, look under every cushion for water stains, smell for mold, and check the bilge. A dry bilge is the most beautiful sight in this entire hobby. For anything over a few $1,000s, pay $200 to $400 for a marine surveyor. It's the best money in the entire process, and the survey often doubles as your ticket to insurance and marina acceptance. Step 5. Negotiate against the slip fee, not the asking price. Ask the seller how much the boat costs them per month to keep. Then make your offer with a fast close. Cash and speed beat price in this market every single time. And finally, step 6. Move aboard slowly and humbly. Spend your first month treating the boat like a suspicious new roommate. Learn where every through-hull fitting is, every valve, every wire. Get a carbon monoxide detector and a propane sniffer if you have gas aboard. Test your bilge pumps and make friends with the liveaboard 3 slips down who's been doing this for 20 years. Because that person is worth more than any YouTube video, including this one. Within a few months, the boat stops being a project and starts being home. And one morning you'll be sitting on your back deck with a coffee, watching the fog lift off the water, doing the math in your head. And you'll realize you're living the view that the houses on the hill behind you paid $2 million for, and your entire month costs less than their property tax bill. So here's the takeaway I want you to leave with. The cheapest way left to live on the water isn't a secret because it's hidden. It's a secret because it's unglamorous. It's sitting in plain sight at the end of the dock, wearing 40 years of sunfade, waiting for someone who can see past the algae to the address underneath. The water itself. The yachts get the photographs, the floating homes get the headlines, but the old houseboats, the ones everyone walks past, are quietly housing the smartest people in the marina. The question isn't whether this works. Thousands of liveaboards prove every single day that it does. The question is whether you're willing to trade square footage and status for sunrise on the water and a housing bill that finally makes sense. If this opened your eyes, hit subscribe because in the next video I'm breaking down the 5 houseboat models that make the best liveaboards for under $10,000 and which ones to run away from. Drop a comment and tell me, if you could dock anywhere in the country, which water would you wake up on? I read every single one. Thanks for watching and I'll see you on the dock.